betrayed. Broken, reborn. This is Novel Binge.
Raised as the ninth law, Qingyan village called me family for 18 years, until the demon ceiling well cracked, and they dragged me to the ancestral hall to die. The night the demon ceiling well split open, the entire village woke in terror. When they dragged me out of the woodshed, I did not even have time to put on my shoes. Cold gravel cut into the soles of my feet. In the hollow behind the ancestral hall, black mist rose in waves, and a muffled sound came from the direction of the well. Thump, thump. It sounded as if someone in iron armor was climbing up from beneath the earth, one step at a time. The villagers lined both sides of the road with torches in their hands, watching me pass. The firelight flickered over their faces. Old men, married women, uncles, aunts, neighbors, people I had bowed to, worked for, eaten beside, and called family for 18 years. Not one of them stepped forward to help me. The one holding me was Shen Jiaoyi. He gripped the back of my neck with one hand and twisted my arm with the other, forcing me up the stone steps of the ancestral hall. "Behave yourself," he muttered beside my ear. "Shen Yan, the lives of everyone in this village are resting on you tonight. Don't be ungrateful." My knee smashed against the steps, and pain burst white behind my eyes. At the entrance to the ancestral hall stood Shen Xuansong, the clan leader. He wore the black ceremonial robe used only for the well sealing rite. Dark red well patterns were embroidered around his cuffs. On ordinary days he was gentle, almost kind. Whenever he saw me, he would ask whether I had eaten. But that night, he held a black pottery bowl in his hands. The soup inside was dark and glossy, giving off a sharp medicinal stench, mixed with something fishy and foul. The moment I smelled it, pain stabbed through my collarbone. It felt like an iron nail being driven into bone. I stepped back by instinct. Shen Zhao kicked the back of my knee. I dropped to the ground. "Clan leader," I said, looking up. "What is that?" Shen Xuansong gazed at me for a long moment. His expression was still gentle, almost sorrowful. "Meridian mending soup," he said. "You've been frail since childhood. You're used to the medicine. There's nothing to fear." I stared at the bowl. That was not the soup I had been drinking on the first day of every month. The usual soup was bitter, but never this foul, and it had never made my collarbone ache before I even tasted it. A gust of wind swept in from the back mountain. The torches bent sideways. Another cracking sound rang out from the direction of the well. Someone began to cry. "Clan leader, hurry, another crack has opened. If we wait any longer, the demon will break free. Shen Yan, drink it. You've lived off this village for 18 years. Isn't it time you did something for us?" "That's right. The clan leader raised you. Are you really going to watch us all die?" Each sentence struck like a stone. Suddenly, every face around me looked unfamiliar. I knew them all. Auntie Shen from next door had once given me half a roasted flatbread. Uncle Shen from the back alley had once asked me to fix his firewood door. Even the old woman near the ancestral hall had praised me for sweeping the courtyard clean. But now they looked at me, the way one looks at a stone that can be used to plug a well. Shen Xuansong bent down and brought the bowl to my lips. "Yanner?" He called me by my childhood name, as gently as if he were coaxing a frightened child. "Drink this, sleep for a while. The whole village will survive." My throat tightened. What about me? The ancestral hall fell silent. The wind from the well carried a damp, rotten chill. Shen Xuansong did not answer. Behind me, Shen Jiaoyi gave a cold laugh. "You, a useless bloodline, like you can trade one life for the survival of the entire clan. That is a blessing from the ancestors." I jerked hard. "Let me go." Shen Jiaoyi pressed down harder, shoving my face against the stone floor. The rough surface scraped my cheek open, and blood filled my mouth. "A piece of trash dares to make trouble?" He sneered. "Who do you think you are? You were just a child the clan leader picked up off the streets." Shen Xuansong sighed. Then he pinched my chin with his own hand. "Yanner, don't force me." The rim of the bowl pressed against my mouth. The moment the black soup poured in, my collarbone burned like fire. Pain swallowed everything. I clenched my teeth, but several mouthfuls still slid down my throat. The bitter fishy liquid sank into my stomach. My limbs immediately went weak. Just as my strength was about to leave me, heat suddenly flared in my chest. The old bronze bell that had hung around my neck for 18 years trembled violently. Ding! The sound was not loud, yet it cut through every cry in the ancestral hall. The black pottery bowl shattered in Shen Xuansong's hands. Shards sliced across the back of his hand. Black soup splashed across the floor. The villagers screamed and scrambled back. Even Shen Jiaoyi froze for one breath. That one breath was enough. I twisted around, grabbed his wrist, and bit down with all my strength. He screamed. I shoved him aside, tumbled down the stone steps, scrambled to my feet, and ran toward the side window of the ancestral hall. Behind me, someone shouted, "Catch him! Don't let the ninth lock escape." The ninth lock. My steps faltered. Those 3 words drove into my skull like a cold needle. But I had no time to think. Another crack split across the demon ceiling, well behind the ancestral hall. A low laugh drifted up from the depths. The voice pressed close to my ear. "Run, Shen Yan. They are going to nail you into the well." I crashed through the side window, splinters tearing into my skin, and rolled into the pitch-black night. Earlier that day, Qingyan village had looked as peaceful as always. I had swept the bluestone slabs in front of the ancestral hall 3 times and refilled the well lamp oil twice. Shen Jiayi came over from the training grounds with several young men, deliberately trampling mud across the ground I had just cleaned. I lowered my head, said nothing, and picked up the broom again. Shen Jiayi stepped in front of me. He was half a head taller than me, with an obsidian blade at his waist, the weapon reserved for the young clan leader. The scabbard brushed past my shoulder, stirring a cold draft. Shen Yan, he smiled. I heard you drank another bowl of meridian mending soup last night. The young men behind him burst into laughter. After 18 years of medicine, he still hasn't mended anything. His bones must be hollow. Hollow bones. No wonder he can't cultivate. I gripped the broom until my knuckles whitened. Shen Jiayi reached out and patted my face. Not hard, just humiliating. Why aren't you speaking? The clan leader feeds you and clothes you. Are you still not satisfied? I looked at him. Move. His eyebrow lifted. Say that again? I said, nothing. I had known since childhood that arguing with Shen Jiayi was pointless. He was the young clan leader, the pride of Qingyan village. He opened his meridians at 13, entered the profound fire realm at 15, and could now wield a blade aura marked with well patterns. As for me, I could not even draw in the most basic thread of spiritual energy. The clan said my bloodline was wasted. Some said I was born under an unlucky star and had caused the death of my foster father, Shen Huaishi. Others said Shen Xuansong, keeping me alive, was already an act of mercy. They said it so often that even I almost believed them. Shen Jiayi found my silence boring, so he kicked over the oil jar beside the well lamp. Oil spilled across the blue stone. Someone cursed from the ancestral hall entrance. Shen Yan, how do you do your work? Can't you even watch the lamp oil properly? Shen Jiayi laughed until his shoulders shook. I bent down to right the jar, and a shard of porcelain cut across the back of my hand. Blood dripped onto the stone. The bronze bell on my chest suddenly grew warm. I lowered my head and touched it. The bell was old, its surface worn dull, etched with patterns I had never understood. Shen Huaishi had left it to me. I still remembered the winter before he died. Snow fell heavily over the village. He hung the bell around my neck with a rough, warm hand. Yanner, he said, never take it off. I asked why. He was coughing badly then, but his eyes held a grief I did not understand. When the pain becomes unbearable, hold on to it. I had been 7 years old. I did not yet know what unbearable pain meant. Later, I learned. On the first day of every month, Yao Qinghe brought me a bowl of meridian mending soup. She was my foster mother and the woman who managed the medicinal herbs at the clan leader's residence. She told me the soup would strengthen my meridians so that one day I might cultivate tea like the others. But every time I drank it, my collarbone ached through the entire night. The pain was so fierce I bit through the corner of my blanket. My body turned cold. I could not even scream. The next morning, when Yao Qinghe came to collect the empty bowl, her eyes were always red and swollen. I once asked her, Mother, can this soup really cure me? She stroked my head with a trembling hand. Yes, she said, just endure a little longer. So I endured, for 18 years. That evening, the chickens and dogs in the village suddenly fell silent. The clear water in the vat beside the well slowly turned black. A boy fetching water cried out that hands were grabbing him far on below the surface. Then the clan bell rang once. On ordinary days, the clan bell rang only during the 7 days before the well sealing rite. But this year's rite was still a month away. I was squatting behind the ancestral hall, washing a broom, when old Madame Shen Yunpo approached with her black wooden staff. She was the village priestess, keeper of the sacrificial hymns and the clan genealogy. She was so old that her face looked like cracked bark. When she looked at someone, the whites of her eyes showed more than the pupils. Shen Yan, I stood and bowed. Granny Yunpo, her gaze settled on my collarbone. It made my skin crawl. She looked at me the way one looks at a sacrificial vessel being taken from storage. Starting tonight, you will stay in the ancestral hall. I froze. Why? The sealing ceremony has been moved up. Her voice was cold. The clan leader has ordered that for 3 days, you are not to leave the ancestral hall by even half a step. I frowned. What does the well sealing rite have to do with me? Old Madame Yunpo stared at me. You only need to obey. At that moment, Yao Qinghe came down the corridor, carrying a food box. Her face changed when she heard those words. Old Madame Yunpo glanced at her. Is the soup ready? Yao Qinghe's fingers tightened around the handle. One ingredient is still missing. Do not delay important matters. The old priestess turned and walked away. Her wooden staff struck the stone slabs again and again, like something knocking against human bones. Yao Qinghe set the food box before me. Inside were a bowl of rice, a small dish of pickled vegetables, and a piece of roasted meat. Roasted meat was Shen Xiaoman's favorite. Usually, my little foster sister could not bear to give me a whole piece. She would secretly tear off half and slip it into my bowl. I stared at the meat. Mother, why was the rite moved up? Why do I have to stay here? Yao Qinghe did not look at me. The clan leader has his arrangements. I looked at her hands. Black medicinal residue stained the edges of her nails, impossible to wash clean. Will there be soup tonight? Her movements stopped. After a long silence, she said softly, yes. My heart sank. What is really in that soup? Yao Qinghe suddenly lifted her head. Panic flashed in her eyes, mixed with a pleading fear. Yanner, don't ask. I have drunk it for 18 years. My voice tightened. Am I not allowed to ask? Her lips parted, but before she could answer, a small small figure ran in from the corridor. Shen Xiaoman, with her hair tied in 2 little braids, rushed over breathlessly while clutching half a sweet cake. Big brother. She pressed the cake into my hand. Mother said you're staying in the ancestral hall tonight, so I came to keep you company. Yao Qinghe's expression changed. Xiaoman, go back. Shen Xiaoman, blink. Why? Go back. Yao Qinghe rarely spoke to her so harshly. Xiaoman startled, her eyes immediately reddening. I bent down and patted her head. Listen to your mother. She pouted, took 2 steps away, then turned back and whispered, Big brother, don't drink the bowl of soup by the well tonight. My heart skipped. Yao Qinghe quickly covered her mouth. Child, don't talk nonsense. When Xiaoman was dragged away, she kept looking back at me. Her eyes were full of fear. At that moment, the ancestral hall felt colder than it ever had. After nightfall, I was left alone. Guards were posted outside. Their footsteps paced back and forth beyond the paper windows. I lay on the wooden couch in the side room, unable to fall asleep. From the direction of the demon ceiling, well came the faint sound of dripping water. Drip, drop, drip. But it had not rained for days. I sat up and touched the bronze bell on my chest. It was burning again. Heat crawled up my fingertips and burrowed into my collarbone. I gasped through the pain. A forbidden plaque hung on the wall of the side room. Rear chamber of the ancestral hall. No entry, except the clan leader and the sacrificial priestess. I stared at that plaque for a long time. Old Madame Yunpo's words from the day echoed in my mind. You only need to obey. Who allowed you to ask? Who allowed you to know your own fate? I got off the bed. The guards' shadows stretched across the paper window. I waited until they changed shifts, then pushed open the small rear window and slipped out. The inner chamber of the ancestral hall had been locked all year. 3 talisman locks hung on the door. I had worked as a servant in the ancestral hall since childhood. I knew the second lock had a flaw. If a thin iron strip was inserted from the side, it could be loosened for 1 breath. 1 breath was enough. I pried the door open and slipped inside. The rear chamber was bitterly cold. Ancestral tablets lined both walls. In the center hung a rolled black clan genealogy. Beneath it burned an ever-burning lamp. But the oil inside was not yellow. It was dark red. I stepped closer. The moment my hand touched the genealogy, the lamp flickered as if someone had blown on it from behind. I gritted my teeth and opened the scroll. The front was filled with names of Shen clan members. Page after page. Dense, endless. When I reached the final page, my fingers froze. There was only one name there. Shen Yan. My name was circled by a vermilion thread. Beside it, there was no birthday, no parentage, no origin. Only 3 words. The 9th lock. My mind went blank. The 9th lock. What did that mean? Who were the first 8? I reached for the previous page. At that moment, a wooden staff struck the ground at the doorway. Knock. Knock. Who allowed you to read your own fate? Old Madame Yunpo stood in the doorway, half her face hidden in darkness. I slammed the genealogy shut. My fate. My hands clenched. Why does this say I am the 9th lock? She looked at me without the slightest change in expression. Since you have already seen it, spare yourself some suffering. Explain it. When the time comes, you will understand. She raised her hand. Guards rushed in and pinned me to the floor. My face pressed against the cold tiles. The lamplight flickered over the clan genealogy in front of me. Old Madame Yunpo bent down. Shen Yan, don't blame the village. Her voice was low enough that only I could hear. Living to 18 was already a mercy. When they locked me back in the side room, they added an iron chain around my wrist. The other end was bolted into the wall. Outside, the wind began to rise. It carried the stench of well water. Deep in the night, the demon ceiling well cracked. The sound was like the mountain being torn open from inside. Tiles rattled and fell from the ancestral hall roof. The ever-burning lamps went out, then lit themselves one by one. Chaos erupted outside. The well has cracked. Bring the clan leader. Where is the 9th lock? Bring the 9th lock out. The door was kicked open. Shen Jiayi led several men inside. They cut the iron ring from the wall and dragged me out. I struggled. What are you doing? No one answered. They dragged me to the front of the ancestral hall. The villagers had already gathered in a dense crowd. Shen Xuansong stood waiting for me with a black pottery bowl. Only then did I understand. The words 9th lock in the genealogy were not for the ancestors. They were for me. They wanted me to know before I died that I was never a child they had raised. I was a lock waiting to be hammered into the well. After the bronze bell shattered the bowl, I fled into the Forbidden Mountain. The back mountain of Qingyan village was thick with mist. The night air cut like ice. I wore only a thin shirt. My feet were bleeding from the stones, and every step sent pain up my legs. Behind me, the clan bell tolled 9 times. After the 9th toll, every dog in the village began to howl. Shen Xuansong's voice echoed through the valley, through a sound transmission talisman. Shen Yan has been seduced by the well demon and betrayed the clan. From this moment on, any member of Qingyan village who sees him may bind or kill him. Anyo, who lets him escape out of personal attachment, will be judged guilty of treason against the entire clan. I leaned against a tree, gasping as if knives were scraping through my lungs. Seduced by the well demon. So that was the crime they had prepared for me. I looked back. Torches flowed up the mountain, like a dragon of fire. I had never been able to cultivate, but I knew these paths better than anyone. Since Shen Jiaoyi and the others never let me near the training grounds, I had spent my years chopping firewood in the mountains. I knew where the beast dens were, where the cliffs dropped away, where a person could hide. But that night was different. After the demon ceiling well cracked, the mountain path seemed alive. Tree shadows twisted, stones shifted. I wandered for what felt like hours, only to find myself back before the same crooked pine. The pain in my collarbone grew worse. The bronze bell against my chest burned like a live coal. I clutched it and cursed under my breath. "What are you?" The bell gave no answer. From the distance came Shen Jiayi's voice. "He's up ahead." Several flames closed in. I turned and ran, only to collide with someone on the mountain path. Yao Qinghe. She stood under the moonlight in a gray cloak, holding a lantern. The flame trembled in the wind. I stopped. When she saw me, her eyes reddened. "Yanner." I took a step back. "Are you here to catch me?" She shook her head. "I came to persuade you to go back." I laughed. My throat was full of blood. "Go back to drink the soup, or go back to be nailed into the well." Her face went pale. "If you don't go back, Xiaoman won't survive either." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" She gripped the lantern handle. "The clan leader said if you don't return, they'll lock Xiaoman in the sacrificial chamber. Once the well fully cracks, no one will escape." I stared at her. "So you came to beg me to go back and die?" Her lips trembled. "I have no choice." "You do." I stepped closer. 18 years. You brewed that soup for 18 years. Every time you saw me writhing in pain on the bed, you told me it was nourishing my meridians. Tears slipped down her face. I lowered my voice. "What was really in it?" She stepped back. "Stop asking. Tell me." My shout made her flinch. The wind grew wilder in the trees. The footsteps of the pursuers drew closer. Yao Qinghe suddenly shoved something into my arms. Half of an old prescription. The paper was damp with sweat and wrinkled from being held too tightly. "Go north to the slope," she whispered. "Find Qin Liu. He knows an old mine tunnel." I clenched the paper, my fingertips cold. "What is this?" She did not answer. She only repeated, "Don't drink the soup by the well." I looked at her, my heart cooling inch by inch. "How many times have you saved me?" Yao Qinghe froze. I asked again, "And how many times have you harmed me?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The firelight behind her drew closer. Shen Jiaoyi called, "Aunt Yao, where is he?" Yao Qinghe shoved me hard. "Go." I rolled down the slope into a patch of brambles. Thorns drove into my back. I clenched my teeth and stayed silent. Above me, Shen Jiaoyi arrived with his men. "Aunt Yao, have you seen Shen Yan?" Yao Qinghe's voice was hoarse. "He went east." Shen Jiaoyi sneered. "You had better not be lying. The clan leader said anyone who lets him go is a sinner against the village." Their footsteps chased east. I lay in the brambles until the torchlight faded. Only then did I crawl out. The prescription in my palm was nearly crushed. By the weak moonlight, I saw 2 words written on collarbone soup. It was not meridian, mending soup. It had never been for my meridians. Collarbone. I stared at those words, and something heavy lodged in my throat. The old mine shaft on the northern slope was far from the village. It had collapsed years ago, killing several miners, and had been abandoned ever since. By the time I crawled inside, dawn was close. The tunnel was damp and cold, its stone walls covered in moss. The deeper I went, the hotter the bronze bell became. At the deepest point, I heard a voice. It was not the pursuers outside. It came from deeper underground. Shen Yan. Low, hoarse, metallic, like iron scraping stone. I gripped a sharp rock. "Who's there? You can finally hear me." The puddle at the end of the tunnel began to flow backward. Black water crawled up the stone cracks and gathered on the wall, forming the blurred shape of a man. A chill ran down my spine. "Are you the thing from the well?" The figure laughed. "They call me a demon." "Then, what are you?" "Chu Wujin." The name froze me in place. Chu Wujin appeared in Qingyan village's sacrificial texts. 300 years ago, the northern war god Chu Wujin slew the blood abyss demon fetus and died, his path extinguished. The Shen ancestors, having aided him in battle, were ordered to guard the well. That was the story recited every year during the well sealing rite. But the voice from the black water said, "The Shen clan aided me in battle." The figure lifted its head. They were worthy. Water patterns shifted across the stone wall, forming images. Armored soldiers, a snow-covered plain, a blood-red chasm. A figure in golden armor stood before a vast army, his spear broken, several black spines piercing his chest. The scene flashed. Then a man in Shen clan robes approached from behind with a bone blade. Before I could see more, the image shattered. Chu Wujin's voice pressed against the stone. "Qingyan village does not guard the demon. They are bone thieves." My breath caught. "What do you mean? Your crippled meridians are fake." A blackwater hand reached out and pointed at my collarbone. I instinctively stepped back. His voice moved closer. You have suffered for 18 years because they used that soup to Uppress your bones. Your bones. He paused. They were mine. My grip tightened around the sharp stone. Lies. You don't believe me. The figure raised a hand. Heat exploded through my collarbone. It was not the tearing pain I knew. It was a torrent of power, suppressed for far too long, slamming against a sealed gate. I fell to my knees, cold sweat running down my face. Images flashed before my eyes. War, drums, broken banners, a pitch black well, a man's voice in wind and snow. Seal it, even if it takes my bones. My eyes snapped open. I gasped as if I had been pulled out of deep water. The black water figure watched me quietly. Shenyan, they did not raise you out of kindness. They were waiting for you to grow. I thought of the final page of the genealogy, the 9th law. What about the first 8? He did not answer. Footsteps came from outside the tunnel. Shen Zhou had found me. Shenyan. His voice echoed in the cave. Stop hiding. Your little tricks won't save you. I pushed myself against the stone wall, still dizzy. The blackwater figure whispered, if you want to live, use my power. I gritted my teeth. Why should I trust you? Because right now, I am the only one who wants you alive. The words were soft. They struck like a hook. Firelight spilled into the cave. Shen Zhou blocked the entrance with 5 well guards. A cloth wrapped his bitten wrist, dark blood seeping through it. I saw black patterns crawling up his arm like tiny well marks. He noticed my gaze, and his face darkened. What are you looking at? He drew his black gold blade. I was going to leave you breathing, because the clan leader wants you alive, but breaking your limbs first will work just as well. The guards surrounded me. I stepped back until my spine touched the wall. All I held was a sharp rock. Shen Zhou laughed. Trash is trash. Even after running here, you're still trash. Something flew out of the side tunnel. It clattered at my feet. A broken blade. The blade was only half its original length and covered in rust. Someone coughed near the cave entrance. Take it. It was Qin Liu. Old Qin Liu, lame in one leg, stood in the shadows with an iron hammer in his hand. Shen Zhou frowned. Qin Liu, are you looking for death? Qin Liu spat. So many men bullying a child who never even opened his meridians. Aren't you ashamed, young clan leader? Shen Zhao's eyes turned vicious. Old bastard, I'll deal with you later. I picked up the broken blade. The hilt was ice cold. The moment I gripped it, the bronze bell on my chest chimed again. Ding! The heat in my collarbone seemed to find an outlet. It rushed down my arm and into the blade. The broken blade trembled. The blackwater figure whispered behind me, cut his jade. I did not know what he meant, but when Shen Zhou rushed forward, the green jade on his chest lit up. His protective jade. Since childhood, that jade had shielded him from countless injuries on the training ground. I raised the blade. Shen Zhou sneered. You, against me? His black gold blade descended with fiery spiritual energy. The web between my thumb and forefinger split open at once. The broken blade nearly flew from my hand, but the heat in my collarbone burst outward. Gold filled my vision. I heard war drums, far away, yet close enough to shake my bones. Instead of retreating, I stepped forward. The broken blade slid along the edge of his weapon and struck the jade on his chest. Crack! The green jade split. Shen Zhao's smile froze. In the next instant, the protective jade shattered into powder. He flew backward, smashed into the tunnel wall, and spat blood. The well guards froze. So did I. The golden light on the broken blade flickered once, then faded. My knees weakened, and I nearly fell. Chu Wujin's voice sounded in my mind. Do you see? You are not useless. Shen Zhou clutched his chest and struggled up, fear finally showing in his eyes. Impossible. He stared at me. You've been locked for 18 years. How could you possibly? He stopped abruptly. I looked up. Locked for 18 years. His face changed. Take him back, he shouted. Take him back now. The well guards rushed forward. Qin Liu swung his hammer and smashed the support beam at the cave entrance. Go! Stones collapsed from the ceiling, blocking the pursuers. Qin Liu dragged me through a side passage. His leg was bad, but he ran surprisingly fast. The side path was narrow and ended in a mountain crevice nearly hidden by weeds. By the time we crawled out, the sky had begun to pale. Below us, Qingyan village lay shrouded in mist. Black smoke rose from the ancestral hall. Qin Liu leaned against a tree, panting. I knew this day would come. I looked at him. What is the 9th lock? The wrinkles on his face twitched. He avoided my gaze. Survive first. I grabbed his arm. Who were the first 8? Qin Liu was silent for a long time. Then he took a piece of torn cloth from his chest. Wrapped inside was half a bone whistle. It looked as if someone had deliberately broken it, leaving only a fragment. Your father asked me to keep this. My father. My fingers trembled. Shen Huaishi. Qin Liu nodded. He wasn't your real father, but he was more human than most in that village. I took the whistle fragment. The moment it touched my hand, the bronze bell on my chest grew so hot it nearly cracked. Qin Liu saw it, and his expression shifted. That thing around your neck is still there? I nodded. Do not take it off. He said the same thing Shen Huaishi had said. My heart tightened. How did he really die? Qin Liu looked toward the ancestral hall below. After a long silence, he said, "We're trying to save the previous lock." A chill crept down my back. The previous one? Before he could answer, sharp cries rose from the village. Faint, but clear. I lifted my head. That was Shen Xiaoman's voice. An altar had been set up in front of the clan leader's residence. Qin Liu and I hid behind the slope and watched. Shen Xiaoman was tied to the center of the altar, a cloth stuffed in her mouth. Her face was wet with tears. Yao Qinghe knelt below, held down by two women. Her hair was disheveled as she kowtowed again and again. Clan leader, Xiaoman knows nothing. She is only 7. Shen Xuansong stood before the altar. His face was darker than it had been the night before. The wound on the back of his hand, cut by the shattered bowl, had not been bandaged. Beside the bloodstain, a faint black well pattern had appeared. He looked toward the forbidden mountain. His voice was not loud, but the talisman carried it through the entire village. Shen Yan, if you still recognize Yao Qinghe as your mother and Xiaoman as your sister, return to the ancestral hall within 1 hour. Otherwise, she will die in your place. The village fell silent. Some women turned their faces away. Some old men opened their mouths, then lowered their heads. No one stopped him. My grip tightened around the broken blade. Qin Liu pressed a hand to my shoulder. Don't go. I stared at the altar. Shen Xiaoman was sobbing and shaking her head desperately. Her eyes suddenly widened, as if she had seen the slope where we were hiding. She was telling me not to come back. Qin Liu's voice sank. It's a trap. I know. You know, and you're still going. I looked at that small figure. She had given me sweet cakes. When everyone called me hollow bone, she would put her hands on her hips and scold them for being blind. She said her brother would become powerful one day. I slid the broken blade into my waistband. She called me brother. Qin Liu cursed under his breath, but his eyes reddened. You really are just like Shen Huaishi. He was just as foolish. I said nothing. Qin Liu pulled out a yellowed old well diagram and shoved it into my hands. Take this. What is it? Something to help you understand exactly why you are about to die. He coughed twice. If they drag you to the well, find a chance to read the back of the diagram. And don't trust the voices from the well too much. I paused. You know about Chu Wujin. Qin Liu's face changed. He has already spoken to you. I nodded. He looked as if he wanted to curse, but he held it back. He is pitiful. That much is true. The Shen clan owes him. That is true too. Then he stared at me and said slowly, but anything sealed away for 300 years cannot possibly remain unchanged. I remembered those words. At the time, I did not yet understand them. When night fell, I returned to Qingyan village, not through the main gate. Qin Liu led me through an abandoned well into the rear courtyard of the ancestral hall. The passage was narrow. It led to the ritual implement room. The moment I pushed open the hidden door, I heard Shen Xiaoman's muffled sobs. She was locked inside the sacrificial chamber. Talismans covered the door. I used the broken blade to pry it open. Xiaoman threw herself into my arms, trembling all over. Brother. I pulled the cloth from her mouth. She sobbed. You shouldn't have come back. I patted her head. Are you afraid? She nodded hard, then shook her head even harder. Mother said if it hurts big brother, then you mustn't drink. My chest felt as if something had slammed into it. What else did she say? She said. Xiaoman choked on her sobs. She said big brother isn't a bad person. They are the ones who owe you. Flames suddenly flared outside. I turned with Xiaoman in my arms. Array patterns lit up on all 4 walls of the sacrificial chamber. The floor cracked. Black iron chains shot up from below and wrapped around my ankles. I shoved Xiaoman away. Run! But the doorway was already packed with people. Shen Xuansong stood at the front. There was no surprise in his eyes. Yanner, you came back, just as expected. I looked down at the array beneath my feet. This had not been set up in a hurry. They had known I would return. Shen Zhaoyi walked out from behind the crowd, pale, his chest still wrapped in bandages. When he saw me, hatred filled his eyes. Worthless fool, try cutting me again. Old Madame Yunpo stepped forward with a sacrificial scroll. The 9th lock takes its place. Her voice was hoarse. Activate the binding lock formation. The ground shook. 4 black iron chains shot out from the formation and pierced through my shoulder bones. Blood gushed instantly. Pain blackened my vision. Shen Xiaoman screamed, "Big brother." She tried to rush over, but Yao Qinghe held her tightly. Yao Qinghe's face was ashen, her lips bitten through. Don't go, Xiaoman. Don't go over there. The chains hoisted me into the air and dragged me toward the demon, sealing well behind the ancestral hall. 3 cracks had already opened across the well's mouth. Black mist seeped out, coiling around the chains like a living thing. Old Madame Yunpo unfurled the ritual text. The 9th lock of the Shen clan bears the clan's grace, shoulders the clan's sins, guards the well gate, and seals the demonic fetus. Her voice suddenly caught. The edge of the ritual text curled. I looked up at her. Panic flickered in her eyes. Shen Xuansong said coldly, "Continue." She gritted her teeth. With blood as the covenant, bone as the seal, soul as the lamp. I smiled. Blood slid from the corner of my mouth. Bears the clan's grace? I looked at the villagers below. What grace did I receive? No one spoke. I turned to Shen Xuansong. 18 years of collarbone soup. his eyes turned cold. Yao Qinghe jerked her head up. Old Madame Yunpo shrieked, "Lies, blasphemy. If I'm lying, then look at the prescription." I used the last of my strength to throw out the half-prescription Yao Qi Mungo had given me. It landed at the foot of the altar. Someone picked it up, glanced at it, and went pale. Collarbone soup. What collarbone soup? Wasn't it meridian mending soup? The crowd stirred. Shen Xuanzong raised his hand, and the paper burst into flames. An evil counterfeit, meant to shake the clan's resolve. A stranger's voice suddenly sounded from outside the ancestral hall. "What about these?" A man in black stepped into the firelight. A demon-slaying commander's token hung from his waist. Lu Kenzhou. Behind him came Qin Liu, limping under the weight of an iron chest. He dropped the chest to the ground. When it opened, it was filled with old scrolls. Qin Liu spat out bloody saliva. "Shen Xuanzong, can you burn one paper at a time, or can you burn the whole box?" Lu Kenzhou raised his hand. Several old scrolls flew into the air. Under talisman light, the writing became visible to everyone. The Shen clan of Qingyan, entrusted with guarding the well, is in truth a clan of sinners. Every 36 years, one person is raised as a lock to renew the seal. Small daily doses of collarbone soup, heavy doses at the start of each month. Purpose: suppress the divine bone and prevent early awakening. The villagers erupted. Divine bone? Human lock? Didn't the first 8 die of illness? Qin Liu looked up at Shen Xuanzong. They did not die of illness. His voice was hoarse. They were nailed into the well by your clan leaders, generation after generation. Shen Xuanzong's mask of gentleness finally cracked. "Qin Liu, are you betraying the clan too?" Qin Liu laughed. "When I was young, I was blind enough to help you guard that well." He pointed at his crippled leg. "This leg was broken by your own hand when I tried to save the 8th lock." Yao Qinghe trembled. Shen Xuanzong stared coldly at him. "For the sake of the entire clan, some sacrifices are unavoidable." Suspended in the air by chains, I suddenly laughed. I laughed until the chains in my shoulders rattled. "Sacrifice?" I looked at him. "Then why don't you sacrifice yourself?" Shen Xuanzong lifted his eyes. "Because I am not the lock." He stepped onto the altar, and the clan leader's seal appeared in his hand. It was made of black stone, well patterns carved into the base. The moment it appeared, the black aura in the demon sealing well was suppressed. The villagers clung to him as if he were their last lifeline, and the crowd quieted again. Shen Xuanzong looked at them. "There is indeed a strange bone in Shen Yan's body, but that bone is an omen of disaster. If the well is not sealed, the entire village will die. Will you believe a runaway useless boy, over 300 years of Shen clan law?" Those words were. The people who had begun to waver lowered their heads once more. Someone sobbed. "Shen Yan, Auntie is begging you, save us. If you die, so many of us can live. We have no choice." I looked at their faces. Fear, shame, numbness, and entitlement. So this was how people pushed someone to death. They only needed to lower their heads and pretend they had no part in it. Shen Xuanzong pressed the clan leader's seal toward my forehead. "Yen." His voice turned gentle again. "Don't bear a grudge. You were born for this." The moment the seal touched me, the bronze bell on my chest cracked. It did not ring. It split open. Inside the old bell was the other half of a white bone whistle. The whistle fell into my palm. Qin Liu shouted, "Blow it." I did not know where the strength came from. The black iron chains had pierced through my shoulder bones, making it almost impossible to lift my arm. But when the bone whistle touched my lips, the heat in my collarbone broke through something. I blew. Woo! It did not sound like a whistle. It sounded like the final war horn on a battlefield. Every ever-burning lamp in the ancestral hall exploded. From the demon ceiling, well came the thunder of war drums, as if thousands of horses were charging from beneath the earth. The black iron chains in my shoulders turned red inch by inch. Then, they snapped. Shen Xuanzong's expression changed. "Hold him down." Shen Zhaoyi was the first to charge. When I landed, my knees nearly shattered. But I did not fall. The broken blade in my hand glowed gold. Shen Zhaoyi's black gold blade slashed toward me. I raised my hand to block. This time, I was not forced back. Fine cracks spread across his blade. His eyes widened. Impossible. I kicked him in the chest. He flew backward and smashed into the sacrificial altar, overturning it. I did not chase him. I turned and cut the ropes binding Xiaoman. She rushed into my arms, sobbing, "Big brother." I pushed her toward Yao Qinghe. "Take her away." Yao Qinghe looked at me, her lips trembling. "Yanner, go." The demon ceiling well roared. The mouth of the well split open completely. A pillar of black energy shot into the sky, tearing the roof from the ancestral hall and ripping a vortex through the clouds. Everyone fell to their knees. I looked up. A golden afterimage rose from the well. He wore tattered battle armor and held a broken spear. His brows were sharp and fierce, but countless black chains coiled behind him. I had seen that face in the mine tunnel. Chu Wu Jin. He looked down at the Shen clan. His gaze was cold as snow. "The Shen clan, do you still remember me?" No one dared to speak. Shen Xuanzong clutched the clan leader's seal. Old Madame Yunpo knelt on the ground, Trembling, Chu Wujin raised his hand. The clan genealogy flew from the rear of the ancestral hall and penned in midair, page by page, black mist from the well-cast shadows from 300 years ago. On a snow-covered plain, a blood abyss tore open, and countless bloody hands reached out from the demonic womb. The golden-armored war god held the line with his army for 7 days and 7 nights. In the final battle, his divine bones shattered, yet he still forced his broken body into the blood abyss. Then, the scene changed. Several Shen ancestors approached him while he was gravely wounded. They cut open his chest and removed a section of golden divine bone. The old men in the village gasped. Old Madame Yunpo shut her eyes and murmured, "For all living beings, for all living beings." Chu Wujin laughed. "For all living beings?" He waved his hand. In the image, the Shen ancestors used the stolen divine bone to build Qingyan village. Under the name of guarding the well, they gathered spiritual energy and strengthened their descendants' cultivation. At the bottom of the well, a remnant soul was pinned down by black nails, gnawed day and night by the blood abyss demon fetus. Fury surged up my chest. So, it was true. Qingyan village was not the guardian, it was the bone thief. Shen Xuansong snapped. "Enough." The clan leader's seal flared black. "Chu Wujin, you are only a lingering soul. How dare you disturb my Shen clan?" Chu Wujin looked down at him. "You used my bones to steal 300 years of peace. Now, it is time to repay." Then, he turned to me. For one moment, his gaze softened. "Shen Yan, open the well." I tighten my grip on the broken blade, and after it is open, I take back my bones, destroy the Shen clan, and slay the demonic fetus. He reached out a hand. "I will reclaim the suffering you endured." Those words burned. I looked at the villagers below, at Shen Zhaoyi's terrified face, at Shen Xuansong's clenched hands, at Yao Qinghe holding Shen Xiaoman while tears fell down her face. I wanted revenge. I wanted them all to taste what it felt like to be pinned down and force-fed poison. I wanted Shen Xuansong to feel iron chains pierce his shoulder bones, while someone told him his death was worth it. Chu Wujin's hand stopped before my face. "Give me your body." He said it very softly. "You are too weak to bear the complete divine bone." My mind went cold. "My body?" He did not avoid my gaze. "We are of the same origin. Only by entering your body can I fully sever the seal." Black mist at the bottom of the well coiled around my ankles. It was not heavy, yet I could not move. Shen Xuansong suddenly smiled. "Shen Yan, do you see?" He raised the clan leader's seal. Black well patterns spread from his sleeve toward his neck. "You thought he was saving you. He only wants your bones." The clan leader's seal pressed down. Chu Wujin's hand moved toward my brow. On one side stood Shen Xuansong, determined to nail me into the well as a lock. On the other stood Chu Wujin, wanting to use me as a vessel. I stood between them, shoulder bones bleeding, collarbone burning so fiercely, it felt as if my chest would split open. Below the altar, ordinary villagers knelt in a trembling mass. "Shen Yan, please seal the well. We don't want to die. Please save everyone." Chu Wujin's voice echoed inside my mind. "Do not bother with them. They do not deserve to live." Shen Xuansong's voice sounded beside my ear. "Yanner, one life for the entire clan. It is worth it." I suddenly remembered Qin Liu's warning. Anything sealed away for 300 years could not possibly remain unchanged. I also remembered the old well diagram. Through the pain, I fumbled it out from my clothes. It was soaked in blood, but as the bone whistle hummed, writing on the back began to glow. The 9th lock's bone is not the key to unsealing the well, but the foundation for sealing it. War god Chu Wujin severed his own divine bones and willingly left his lingering soul to guard the blood abyss. If later generations encounter a vengeful spirit demanding bones, do not take it at face value. I lifted my head and looked at Chu Wujin. His golden figure flickered. The gentleness on his face vanished. Dark red light rose in the depths of his eyes. "Shen Yan," he said in a low voice. "The Shen clan tampered with that." I said nothing. The bone whistle trembled on its own. A wisp of golden light rose from within it. Inside that light was another Chu Wujin. This one was far fainter than the shadow over the well, almost transparent. He looked at me without hatred, only exhaustion. "Young man," he said, "do not let me out." The golden armored shadow above the well spun around, his gaze savage. "Shut up." The transparent remnant looked at him. "You are not me, I am you. You are the hatred raised from me, a thing fed by resentment." The transparent remnant raised his hand, and complete memories opened above the demon, sealing well. I saw the final battle 300 years ago. The Shen ancestors had indeed stolen the bones. But after that, the blood abyss demon fetus broke through the rip. Chu Wujin could have escaped. He did not. Dragging his broken divine bones, he pressed his own soul into the depths of the well. "The bones may be taken," he said, "but the demon cannot escape." At that moment, the true Chu Wujin chose to remain. But 300 years later, his lingering hatred, gnawed by resentment and tainted by the blood abyss, had become the shadow now seeking rebirth and revenge. The Shen clan was guilty, but if that shadow escaped, the blood abyss demon fetus would escape with it. Then far more than Qingyan village would die. I clenched the bone whistle, my throat full of blood. Chu Wujin's vengeful spirit stared at me. Are you still going to stand up for them? I shook my head. I won't stand up for them, Shen Xuanzong immediately said. Then seal the well. I looked at him. And I won't take your place either. His face stiffened. I drove the broken blade into the ground and gripped the bone whistle with both hands. A tearing sound came from my collarbone, like someone snapping bone by force. The transparent remnant watched me. To recast the seal, half a divine bone must be severed. I let out a breath. What happens if it breaks? Pain. He paused. Or death. I smiled. Better that than being a lock for one side and a shell for the other. The vengeful spirit roared, black-red resentment surging toward me. Shen Xuanzong activated the clan leader's seal at the same time. Two forces tore at me from both sides. I blew the bone whistle again. This time, the sound was not loud like war drums. It was low. It seemed to come from inside my bones. I reached up and pressed my hand against my collarbone. Then, I pulled. Half a golden shadow of bone tore out of my body. Pain swallowed sound itself. My mouth opened, but no cry came out. Only blood spilled from my lips. The ancestral hall, the altar, and the villagers blurred before my eyes. Shen Xiaoman screamed my name. Yao Qinghe tried to rush forward, but Qin Liu stopped her. Lu Kenzhou drew his blade and cut through black mist lunging toward the crowd. Shen Zhaoyi crawled backward in terror. Shen Xuanzong's face went white. Impossible. How can you reforge the well seal? I gritted my teeth and thrust that half-length divine bone into the crack of the demon sealing well. Because this, well, I looked up at him. Never acknowledged your clan leader's seal. The divine bone fell into the well. The demon sealing well shook violently. Countless golden patterns appeared on the well walls. They looked like locks, but not the kind meant to bind me. They bypassed my blood and plunged to the bottom of the well. Chu Wujing's vengeful soul was caught by the golden patterns and let out a tearing roar. Shen Yan, you should hate them. I looked at him. I do hate them. Then, why won't you let me kill them? Clutching the broken blade, I slashed at the black-red resentment wrapped around him. Because my hatred belongs to me. The blade fell. The transparent remnant raised his hand and pressed it against the resentful spirit's forehead. Two identical shadows overlapped, then began to merge. The vengeful spirit struggled, cursed, and screamed before the golden light tore away the black-red miasma. The corruption sank into the depths of the well. The true remnant of Chu Wujin stood at the well's mouth, so faint he was almost invisible. He glanced at me. You are more ruthless than I was back then. Leaning on the broken blade, I barely remained standing. I had no other choice. He smiled faintly. Yes, you chose the third path. Then he turned and fell into the well. The golden patterns sealed shut. A piercing shriek rose from the blood abyss. Demon fetus. All of Qingyan village trembled. Boulders rolled down the mountain. Half the ancestral hall collapsed. But the cracks at the well's mouth closed one by one. Only a thin thread of bloody light remained deep inside. The demon ceiling well fell silent. In front of the ancestral hall, no one moved. I lifted my head. The clan genealogy still hovered in midair. I raised my hand, and my blood fell onto the well patterns. The demon sealing well lit again. This time, it did not show the battlefield from 300 years ago. It showed the human locks of every generation. The first was a young man, blindfolded and nailed into the well. The second was a woman clutching her belly, begging them to spare her child. The third was a mute youth who could not even cry out before he died. One after another, all the way to the eighth. The eighth lock looked about my age. Shen Huaishi carried him on his back, running out of the mountains, only to be intercepted by Shen Xuanzong and his men. Shen Huaishi knelt and begged them to spare the child. Shen Xuanzong personally ordered his legs broken. Later, Shen Huaishi died. The eighth lock was hammered into the well. Every scene reflected on the faces of the villagers. No one spoke anymore. The funeral oration in old Madame Yunpo's hands caught fire. The flames were black. She opened her mouth in terror, trying to chant a spell, but not a single word came out. The ritual text burned backward. The flames climbed her hands and devoured her voice. She clutched her throat and collapsed to her knees, making only a hoarse, broken rasp. Shen Jiayi's spiritual energy suddenly went wild. From the place where I had shattered his protective jade, black well patterns crawled across his chest. His black gold blade snapped in two. His cultivation leaked away like water from a cracked jar. Terrified, he grabbed Shen Xuanzong's robe. Father, save me, save me. Shen Xuanzong did not look at him. He stared at the clan leader's seal in his hand. The seal had cracked. A fissure split it down the middle. Then it crumbled into dust. The black well pattern on his wrist came alive and crawled up his arm toward his heart. Only then did Shen Xuanzong panic. No. He staggered back. I am the clan leader. I am the well keeper. Dragging the broken blade, I walked toward him step by step. With every step, My chest hurt until the pain turned numb. After half the divine bone was broken, it felt as if something inside me had been hollowed out. But I had never been clearer. Shen Xuanzang looked at me. For the first time, there was fear in his eyes. Yen, he tried to call me that again. I raised my hand and cut the clan token from his waist. Don't call me that. The token fell to the ground. The golden patterns on the demon ceiling well lit up. The clan genealogy turned to Shen Xuanzang's page. His name slowly burned away in black flame. Then came the names of each clan leader before him. Page after page, those names, sustained by human locks and propped up by stolen divine bones, turned to ash. Shen Xuanzang fell to his knees. Half of his black hair turned white in an instant. The backlash from the well patterns devoured his cultivation. His spiritual veins shattered inch by inch. He opened his mouth and spat blood. Shen Yan, you cannot destroy Qingyan village. I looked at him. Qingyan village, rotted long ago. His eyes were full of unwillingness. Without us guarding the well, the demonic fetus would have escaped long ago. Is the well what you guarded? I pointed at the old scrolls scattered on the ground. What you guarded was your ancestors' crime. He had no answer. Lu Kenjo walked over and put away his demon-slaying commander's token. I will take these case files back to the demon-slaying division. He glanced at Shen Xuanzang. The 300-year-old case of Qingyan village should be reopened. The ordinary villagers suddenly dropped to their knees. Some kowtowed, some wept. Shen Yan, we didn't know. We were only following the clan leader's orders. Please spare the children, spare the village. I looked at them. There was no satisfaction in my chest. No pity either, only exhaustion. I knew some of them truly had not known. I also knew that, whether they knew or not, they had lowered their heads when I was dragged onto the altar. I raised my hand. The golden patterns over the demon ceiling well scattered out to one. Ard. The invisible barrier that had sealed Qingyan village for years made a faint sound. Click. The lock opened. Mist on the distant mountain path slowly dispersed. For the first time, the barren hills beyond Qingyan village revealed a road leading out. Everyone froze. The barrier is open. We can leave? We can really leave. My voice was soft, but it carried across the ruins before the ancestral hall. Ordinary clan members may go if they wish. Those who wish to stay may stay. Then I turned to Shen Xuanzang's lineage. The clan leader's bloodline loses the right to perform sacrifices. The clan seal is void. Shen Xuanzang will remain by the well and guard the stele. I crouched before his aged face. Didn't you always say it was for the clan? From now on, you can watch it while you live. Even without you, Qingyan village will still have people who survive. A hoarse sound came from Shen Xuanzang's throat, as if he wanted to curse me. But he no longer had the strength. Shen Jai collapsed on the ground, his hands and feet trembling. He was no longer the young clan leader, no longer the strongest of the younger generation. He was only a useless shell built by stolen well energy, reduced back to his true shape by the backlash. He looked at me with fear and hatred. I did not kill him. Some people live worse than death. Near dawn, only a few people remained beside the demon ceiling well. Yao Qinghe stood not far away with Shen Xiaoman. Xiaoman wanted to run to me, but Yao Qinghe held her back. I looked over. Xiaoman pulled free anyway and ran. She looked up at me, her eyes swollen from crying. Brother, does it hurt? I wanted to say it did not, but when the words reached my lips, I could not speak them. It hurt. After half of my divine bone broke, every breath hurt. The wounds where the black chains had pierced my shoulder bones hurt. What hurt most was that I no longer knew how much of the past 18 years had been real. Xiaoman carefully touched the hem of my clothes. Brother, are you still leaving? I patted her head. For now I'm staying. Her eyes lit up. Yao Qinghe stood a few steps away, her voice strained. Yanner? I looked at her. She still held the other half of the old prescription. Back then, I did save you once. As if afraid I would not listen, she spoke quickly. When you were first brought back, the clan leader wanted to take your bones immediately. She stopped him. I stopped him too. I wanted you to live. But later, after Xiaoman was born, she could not finish. I finished it for her. You became afraid. Tears fell from her eyes. Yes, I looked at her. Morning light fell on her temples, where strands of white had already appeared. Perhaps she had suffered. Perhaps she had regretted it. But bowl after bowl of soup had still been placed before me. The question I had asked her, she still could not answer. How many times did you save me? And how many times did you harm me? So, I asked no more. Take care of Xiaoman. Yao Qinghe stared at me, blankly. After a long while, she nodded. Qin Liu sat on a stone by the well, one leg wrapped in cloth, a blade of grass between his teeth, still alive. I walked over and sat beside him. You aren't dead either. He chuckled. This old man has a stubborn life. Lu Qinzhou came out from the ruins of the ancestral hall, carrying the old scrolls. Shen Yan. I looked at him. The demon-slaying division is short on people, he said. You carry the aura of divine bones, and you can command the well. Come with me, there is plenty to do outside. I followed his gaze beyond the mountains. The road outside Qingyan village was still covered in mist, but it was no longer sealed. For 18 years, I had lived in a village that raised me as a lock. For the first time, the path before me did not end at the ancestral hall. I stood and walked to the demon sealing well. The shattered clan leader's seal lay scattered on the ground. The clan genealogy had burned to ash and drifted away in the morning breeze. Ordinary villagers carried their bundles and slowly made their way out along the mountain path. Some looked back at me. Others did not dare. Shen Xuansong knelt beside the well, his white hair disheveled. He looked as if he had aged decades overnight. He would stay here, guarding the crimes his ancestors refused to admit. I thrust the broken blade into the rim of the well. The golden patterns on the demon ceiling well flickered faintly. This time, they were not sealing me. This time, I was the one listening. I said to Lu Qinzhou, I am not the lock they raised. Deep inside the well, the thread of bloody light trembled. I placed my hand on the cold stone rim. Beneath my palm, the golden patterns remained steady. From today onward, I said, this well is under my jurisdiction.